folks, welcome to the second recap video of Versus 5. I'm the Custard Prophet. So if you're new to this, you're not sure what this is all about, great, well, I'll just briefly explain it and then we can get into it. This is a multi-creator football manager tournament, but like no other you've seen before. So what we've done here is to take 10 football manager creators. We split them into two groups, one group representing Team GB, one group representing Team Rest of the World. And one of the players within each of those groups is going to go up against each other head to head, each taking on a separate challenge, each managing a different club in Football Manager. Now the cool thing is, and the slight difference than you've seen probably in any other Football Manager tournament, is those two creators going up against each other will manage the same club for one season in parallel saves. And what we'll be doing is looking at how many points they got in the league. So it's a whole season challenge. It's going to be over 5 episodes. This is episode 2. And they're going to see whichever one of those two creators gets the most points, wins themselves a point for either Team GB or Team Rest of the World. And this is kind of a Ryder Cup style. So whichever one of those two teams wins, it is victorious overall. So up on the screen behind me, you will be able to see the various creators that are involved. Links are all down in the description below. So please pop down there and check out those creators. There's also the schedule of when they're going to be releasing their content. So we've got one on Friday, one Saturday, and then the rest come out on Sunday. So you can kind of watch all of these as they go. Each of the creators will pop their videos out at the same time on their channels, so you know exactly when to expect that. Okay, let's just, before we get into the recap of what has happened, let's just fill you in as to where we were at the end of the last episode. So at the end of recap 1, United City FM had a 3-point lead over Old Lady Plays. Chasing Lamely was just behind against avoiding relegation. Football Manager Maniac and Leyodemus were all square. I was 3-0 down against Bobby G Gaming, and FM Digi was up against That Trucking Football Manager. So if it stayed like that at the end, you'd see that Team Rest of the World would win that. But is it going to stay like that? Well, probably not. We've jumped a bunch of games in all of the matches. Let's go and see how things have gone. It's match 1. It is Old Lady Plays representing Team Rest of the World against the United City FM, who's representing Team GB. They're both playing in Italy with Sassuolo, a mid-table club. Last time we left them, United City FM had taken a very early lead in the first game, winning that, and Old Lady Plays lost her first game of the season, so a 3-0 lead for United City FM after just one game played. So we're going to come back now for game day 10, and we'll look at the highlights of that in a minute. But first of all, we'll have a little look how they've got on in the first 9 games of the season. Now, interestingly, there's been no transfers, no tactical tweaks from either of these creators. They've basically stuck with what they had right at the start and kind of gone with that. And that tells you it's probably not going too badly for either of them. The one difference that we've got in terms of players who have come in, which we talked about last time round, is United City FM put all his eggs on his striker Nsame as his new top striker, and he has been playing and he has been scoring goals. But what is quite interesting is that Old Lady Plays stayed with her strikers that she had, and Caputo, who is one of those, is top scorer in the league, which is quite an impressive feat. But how have they got on since we were last together? Let's have a look. Let's look at United City FM first of all. You can see after that 3-0 win that we saw against Spezia, got a win straight after that, but it went a little bit awry as we got further on through that run of games. Difficult games against Atlanta, Roma and Napoli were all lost, and a draw against Inter, but they did manage to get a 2-0 away victory against Juventus, which is, pretty good. Today they'll be playing Fiorentina away. So, I mean, they're a mid-table side, Sassuolo. That's kind of the form you might expect. They're probably a little bit better than you might expect. So, can Old Lady Plays have matched that, considering she lost that first game of the season? Well, the answer is yes. It's a resounding yes. She followed that loss against Lazio up with a string of victories and just one draw, again at home against Atalanta, a very, very strong side in this league. Lots and lots of goals being scored, not many conceded. It looks really, really impressive what Old Lady Plays has got going on. And I think Kev's got his work cut out in a minute. She'll be playing Roma up next. So where does that put everyone? After 9 games, United City FM is sitting on 16 points, which is a respectable total. I think he's in the playoff zone in his own league. But Old Lady Plays, she is sitting on 22 points in second place in her league, which is hugely impressive. Now, both the teams they're playing today are both kind of similarly placed in the league. 9th, Fiorentina, and 10th and 8th is Roma. So the quality of opposition should be quite comparable. So let's have a look and see how they get on. Right then, that was, I don't know, I think it was 2 very solid, impressive performances from both creators. United City FM, a very comfortable 2-0 victory over Fiorentina, really quite impressive. Fiorentina, as we said, are a decent side in the league, and so that's a good result, and we'll see what happens. Old Lady Plays, 1-0 victory against Roma. There was a penalty that Roma that they did miss, so that is, you could say maybe a little bit lucky, but she got the result, and that is all that matters. She does have a very difficult run of games coming up, and we've seen that Kev has had his difficult run of games already. So will that change things? So the final scores at this point after 10 games, United City FM sits there on 19, and Old Lady Plays on 25 points. Still a 6-point gap between them. Right then, so can Kev catch up in the next game with a difficult run coming up? It's going to be fascinating to find out. Let's move to match 2. Well, this is match 2. We have a battle of the captains. For Team GB, it is Chasing Lamely, and for Team Rest of the World, it's Avoiding Relegation. Both of them are going to be managing Los Angeles FC. In the first episode, it was really close. 1 point between them. Avoiding Relegation just about in front. But now we're coming back for episode 2. We've moved forward to game day 14. And we're going to have a little look at what has happened in the interim, transfers, tactical tweaks, anything else like that. So we'll have a look. First of all, Chasing Lamely has brought in a few players, and we can see here Luis Silva is probably the most significant of those. Attacking midfielder, stroke forward. He can play fairly much anywhere in an attacking role, mainly on the right side, but can do a job on the left. Very, very solid player. Looking through those attributes, lots of 10s and 11s. Nothing spectacular that stands out, but pretty good all the same. A couple more additional players who've been signed who aren't quite at that level, but you can see he's only a 2-star player as determined by the staff. So still not a massive improvement for the team, but it will provide depth. So how's Chasing Lamely got on since we were last together? So was that wonderful match against New York City FC? Well, pretty well. Unbeaten, which is impressive. Top of the table in that particular parallel save, which is impressive, and only 2 draws since we were last together. So that's also pretty impressive. So yeah, unbeaten and only dropped 4 points. Not much to go on. No, can avoiding relegation deal with that sort of form? We will find out in a second. So avoiding relegation, well, he has made a signing. He's still having awful issues in the transfer market. It's comical how bad things are going in the transfer market, including Carlos Tevez that we announced in the last episode. He's unlikely to be able to register him, which is slightly disappointing for him. So, but he has made one signing at least, and we'll have a little look. It's Julian Green, who looks a bit of a beast compared to the player we've just seen. Looks much more impressive. Aggression of 19, which was pointed out. Apparently looks aggressive in all team talks. You don't want to criticise him. He'll take your head off. So Julian Green looks a decent player, and again, an incredibly versatile player. This is the tactic that avoiding relegation has altered to. It's the same tactic, but a few tweaks to the roles, particularly the advanced playmaker role on the right. So he's playing this green fellow on the right. When I say green fellow, I don't mean he's green in colour, just that's his name. Playing him on the right, and that is absolutely doing some bits. And again, it's the second time Fox in the Box's video has come up, so I think we must all go and watch that and make sure we play our advanced playmakers on out wide. This is how avoiding relegation has got on in between games, and you can see it's even better than what we've just seen. So only 1 draw in amongst that, the draw at home against Cincinnati, which I don't know whether that's a good or a bad result, but it's an impressive set of performances. Right then, so what does that mean for the for how folks are doing? Well, currently Chasing Lamely is now on 29 points, trailing avoiding relegation, who is on 32 points, but still very close, just 3 points in it as things stand. Both teams are going to come up against Nashville, but in slightly different situations. Avoiding relegation will be away against Nashville, whereas Chasing Lamely will be at home against Nashville. Let's go and see what happens. Well, oh my. I mean, where do you start with that? Where do you start? I mean, avoiding relegation. What was that? 4-0 up in about 20 minutes and only finished 5-0 away from home against Nashville. I mean, that was epic form. I was thinking that was going to be 9, 10, 11. It looked for all the world like that was going to happen. Really, really impressive performance. And you can see that tactic is working incredibly well for him. In the case of Chasing Lamely, it didn't go quite as well. I think perhaps you could say it was slightly unfair looking at the statistics of the match. Only 1 shot from Nashville, and that's the one that mattered, and that finished in the 1-1 draw. So how are things at the end of all this? Well, Avoiding relegation has extended his lead. He's up on 35 points, chasing lamely now on 30 points, just 5 points behind avoiding relegation. But yeah, with that tactic in the bag and what we know that avoiding relegation did last year, is he going to be able to catch up? Well, you'll only find out if you keep watching these episodes. Right then, let's move on to match 3. Right then, on to match number 3. This is representing Team GB. It is Football Manager Maniac, and for Team Rest of the World, it is Leyodemus. And they are fighting it out, managing Standard Liège in Belgium. Remember, this particular challenge is a no transfer challenge, so they can only use what they have at the start of the game for one season. There's been a slight hiccup in that both of the creators have used a different starting point to the game. So one used the original update and one used the winter update. So there are a couple of players different between the two, but it's not a huge difference. It shouldn't make a massive effect. But that said, last time out, Football Manager Maniac had a very comfortable win against Antwerp, whereas Leyodemus, it was more of a struggle against Cercle Bruges, but he got through and got the 3 points. So we're now going to come back to see how they got on in game day 12 today. But before we do that, we'll have a little look at what they've done in the time between now and then. So we'll start with Leyodemus, who started with that slightly poor result. Got a good result then against Ghent, but then went on a particularly poor run, which culminated in him getting knocked out of Europe. So 4 draws on the trot and then a loss against CSK Sofia. Now this was obviously a bit of a problem, and he fiddled around. He had a couple of tactics, if you remember, but he actually had to change his tactic yet again. We'll have a look what he is going with now, but the change in tactic brought with it a change in form, as you can see, and since that time he has won every single game, including wins over Genk and away to Club Bruges. So which is going to be a hard one of the more tricky games that he's going to face. The new tactic that he's got, it's a much more narrow tactic. He is basically punching through the middle and trying to beat teams in that way, which is kind of the opposite to his 4-4-2 asymmetric that he had prior to this. But it certainly seems to be suiting the players that are out there, and we'll see if he can continue on with that wondrous form. So Football Manager Maniac, he started very, very strongly. And what's he got? What's he been up to? Well, it is disgusting, isn't it? Look at this. He has just continued to win everything. Everything. He's got through in Europe, as you can see. He's into the as you can't see very well, but he is into the group stages of European competition, which might be a problem, having a few extra games, but at the minute it doesn't seem to be too much of an issue. He has won some absolute crackers. You see, away at Ghent, away at Club Bruges. Yeah, what can you say? What can you say? Very, very impressive stuff from the man. So we've also got a little bit of information on Football Manager Maniac's tactic. He has finally revealed it. It's an interesting one. It's 4-2-3-1, which isn't particularly exciting. But what intrigued me about this is he's playing with wingers with a narrow formation. So I don't know quite how that works, but it clearly is working very, very nicely. Using shorter passing and the counter press and distributing to his centre backs and kind of working it up the pitch. Working brilliantly well, you have to say. So where does that put everyone? Well, surprisingly enough, this has given Football Manager Maniac a fairly sizable lead at this point. He has 33 points out of those 11 games played, and Leyodemus is back on 25 points. So he has got a lot of work to do to make up, and we were only 11 games in, but already we've seen Football Manager Maniac do this before, and already Leyodemus is playing catch-up. So today, both players are away from home. Leyodemus is away to Beerschot, and Football Manager Maniac away to Genk. Both potentially tricky ties. So we will see how they get on with those. Well. Two very imperious performances. Football Manager Maniac looked all over Genk, who are a decent side. 4-1 in the end. Utterly mad. And Leyodemus a very comfortable 2-0 victory there against Beerschot. So it is all to play for at this point, but Football Manager Maniac, all he needs to do is just keep winning games, doesn't he? And he has this one in the bag. Leyodemus is going to have to pull something out quickly. The only thing that I can see going wrong here is potentially injury, because you can't actually do anything. So if you lose a player, you're going to have to use what you've got. So that could scupper Football Manager Maniac potentially. So let's have a look where they are. Leyodemus is now on 28 points, and Football Manager Maniac is 8 points ahead of him on 36 points. Maximal points have been got by him. Let's see what happens next time out. He can't keep this going. I think he is unbeaten so far in all versus competitions. It's crazy stuff. Right, let's move on to match 4. Okay, this is match 4. This is Bobby G Gaming for the Rest of the World team, and myself, Custard Profit, for the Team GB. If you remember, we are managing Burton Albion, the both of us, and I am Burton Albion fan, whereas Bobby is a Rochdale fan who are in this league. Only place you can see Bobby's results is during these episodes. So we're going to reveal his results and look at his highlights for match day 12. So we both played Fleetwood in the first game. I lost that and Bobby won that. So advantage Bobby G. Let's have a look how things went on in the next 10 games following that. Let's have a look at the results I had following that loss to Fleetwood, and they've gone pretty well. You can see the majority of them were wins. We have only lost in one other game, and that was at home against Blackpool, which is a strange result because they were not doing well in the league and we just didn't turn up for whatever reason. Sometimes FN does that to you. We have picked up 3 draws in amongst that. Home against Portsmouth, completely expected because they are one of the teams doing well. Home against Rochdale, they're again. I'm doing that for Bobby because he's a Rochdale fan, and away against Shrewsbury. So some slight surprises in amongst those in terms of the results, but we've picked up some awesome results as well. So very, very nicely done. That is a good set of fixtures after losing that first one. Let's see how Bobby's got on. So after that start, you can see went out of the Carabao Cup quite quickly against Crewe, and then lost and then drew against Accrington, which is a bit of a surprise because Accrington never do particularly well in the league, and he's gone on a little bit of a dodgy run. You can see struggling in the West Country, losing to Plymouth 4-3, a bit of a cracker there, and a 1-1 draw away at Bristol Rovers. And he got a 2-2 draw against Rochdale as well, and lost against Shrewsbury. So some of the games that I slipped up on, he also slipped up on, which is interesting. So we're both coming back for the game against Hull City away from home, which is going to be fascinating because in my league they are second in the table. I'm not entirely sure where they are in Bobby's, but you might have worked out by now, both of us sit on 21 points at this juncture. So we're going to have to see whether we can pick up points over each other with a really tough game to come against Hull City. Let's see what happens. Okay, well, pretty similar, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I don't know the full story of Bobby's result, but he came back into it 1-1 and then 2 really cracking goals late on, ended up losing 3-1. And for my own match, we absolutely dominated the proceedings for the first 30-45 minutes, just didn't score, and then didn't do particularly well in the second half. And lost 3-0. It was a very, very harsh 3-0. But what that does mean is there is no change. We stay on 21 points each. Now, because this is the second one and we are in a drawing situation, we can't have draws in this, otherwise it will screw everything up. You can in the Ryder Cup, but you can't here. This is where we differ. The way these are going to be separated is using the leagues that the match is being played in, their rules. So however you would separate based on that league is how we will separate draws in this, if it comes to it. Let's hope it doesn't, but it's tight at the minute. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens. We're going to come back for game number 28, so a massive leap into the future. That's after the January transfer window. Whew, exciting times. I'll see you for that one, but let's move on to match 3. Well, hello folks, it is match 5. We're back here for game day 7 as that Trucking Football Manager goes up against FM Digi, both managing Trefellyn Boys and Girls Club. That's in the 2nd Division of Wales. Well, they've had a right old difficulty initially. There's only 5 or 6 players at the club, and those are in their late 30s. So they've had to bring in a whole bunch of players. We saw that in the last episode. Just a mad amount of signings. And we thought that maybe Digi had done slightly better in the transfer market than TTFM. So as I say, we are moving on to match day 7 now, and we're going to see how they've got on in the meantime. So we'll start with TTFM. He has changed his tactic yet again into this, which is a somewhat different. He did have some wider players, so he's looking to play more narrow. One of the issues that he is having is he doesn't have a sufficient number of central midfielders, so he's deciding to play 4 central midfielders, which is an interesting solution to that. Yeah, as you can see, it's a fairly narrow formation, and hopefully it is able to produce a slightly more defensively solid performance and maybe a little bit more going forward, because he didn't look all that great in the first game. And TTFM has also made a few more signings, as has FM Digi. Again, we won't go through them all, but just to give you a flavour of the sort of player that's coming in, this is Alan Bull. Say it with me, Alan Bull. I know he sounds kind of like he should be sitting in the corner of a pub with a flat cap on, but this is the quality of player, and he's a 4.5-star player. This kind of shows what these guys are working with. He doesn't look terrible, does he? He's got some ability, as shown by the attributes sort of relevant to his position, but it's not great. And look at those physicals. Look at those physicals. He can barely move. Has to get wheeled around. But yeah, that's Alan Bull. And Digi has done likewise. But how's he gone? Well, actually, it's not gone terrible. Considering there was such a poor loss early on, he's managed to get a draw against Taffs Well. Lost to a Ferry, which is fair enough. That's never easy to beat a Ferry. And wins against Port Talbot and Carmarthen. Carmarthen. So currently doing pretty good. And he's going to be playing a Lantwit Major today, another well-known Welsh team. And hoping to carry on that reasonable form. I think the board are pretty happy with him at the minute. So let's see how he gets on. As for Digi, another tactic for Digi. Yes, he is looking to be much more defensively solid. He's gone for this 4-4-1-1 formation, which he's hoping is going to be better. The reason being, well, it's not gone well. It's not gone well. The first game looked very, very promising, that 2-2 draw, but this is what things look like now. He's getting a few goals, but not enough goals, and conceding far too many. So it doesn't make pretty reading at the minute. And FM Digi has got some work to do. The only point picked up in the previous games was against Goitra United, a 1-1 draw, which is the team that TTFM lost to in the first episode. The scores on the doors at the minute is that TTFM has got 7 points from those first 6 games played, with Digi with only 2 points. Right then, so we are going to be going to see how match day. We're going to go on to match day 7 to see how TTFM and Digi get on in that match. Digi is home against Riska, who are bottom of the league, so he's hoping for some points there. And TTFM is away against Lantwit Mayor, which should prove a test, but his form up to now has been good. So let's see how they have got on. Right then, well, what do you think about that? So maybe not what you were expecting. Digi with a very good result, 1-1 against Riska. Whilst they're bottom of the league, it does give him another valuable point. So he is catching up ever so slowly to TTFM, who doesn't pick up any points at a 4-0 loss, which didn't look particularly good. So I'm not entirely sure when they're going to come back next time, but I think if you can go on a little bit of a run, this could be nip and tuck all the way, with people picking up, having a bit of form here and a bit of form there, and then just going out of form. So I think this could swing quite regularly as we go through this. So it'll be very interesting next time to see what they have done. Well, that was utterly fantastic. Some turnarounds, some excitement, lots of good goals, and perhaps some things you were not expecting to happen. Certainly things that I wasn't expecting to happen. Let's sum up finally where we are with all of that. So, in match 1, United City FM for Team GB. He was ahead in the last episode, but he has fallen behind to Old Lady Plays. He's 6 points behind Old Lady Plays now. So, as things stand, that match is going to Team Rest of the World. In match 2, Chasing Lamely was behind by 1 in the last match. He is now behind by 5 against Avoiding Relegation. So that is a bit of a bugger. That's 2 matches going the way of Team Rest of the World, which is a bit of a worry. But Football Manager Maniac has done the Team GB team proud. He is 36-28 up against Leyodemus. He's got an 8-point lead. That is the biggest points difference we've seen in any of the matches. So Football Manager Maniac are looking very strong at this early stage, but still, this is the second recap video. There's going to be 3 more to come, so it's very early days. Then in match number 4, it's myself against Bobby G Gaming, and this is the one that's very exciting. Of course it is, because it's me. Not. We're all square. We're all square after 12 games, 21 points each. So we've got to see what happens there. As I say, we're going to come back at game 28 for that one. So anything could change. It's a big jump into the future. And then probably the hardest match right at the bottom there at the Welsh Second Division club, Trefellyn boys and girls. Digi was ahead. He's not anymore. He's 7-3 down against that Trucking Football Manager. So as things stand, Team Rest of the World up in 2, Team GB up in 2, and we are all square in 1. Let's see what happens then next week. If you have enjoyed this, make sure you hit the like button. Please subscribe if you are new. Please go over to these other creators' channels, drop them a sub, give them a watch. They are all brilliant creators. I wouldn't have invited them if they weren't. Yep, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much.